that affect marriages are relatives. Relatives is a burden. There are many homes that have been wrecked because of relatives. I tell you 2 stories. A young man got married to a lady, and in their family, there were 4 of them. The lady was the last, and the elder brothers were basketballers and macho men. They are tall. So they were used to their sister cooking for them. So when they got married, the worst thing that happened was that they were in the same city. So every evening they would just come to the house. Hey, sis, what's up? What's up? What's in the kitchen? They would just throw to the kitchen. You know, when it started, it looks casual. Yeah, there's food in the kitchen. Please, go and take. Every day, this one throws in and enters the kitchen. The husband, it was not a problem at the first. Well, it's my brother-in-law. The next day, it's my brother-in-law. Another brother-in-law. Another brother-in-law. Another brother-in-law. And you know basketballers, the volume of food they eat is much. After a while, they started choking the man. And he couldn't take it anymore. He now called the sister and said, the wife, and said, is it not okay if you tell your brothers, I have nothing against them, but you see, it's not all the time. The lady got offended that the man doesn't want her brothers to come into their home. What kind of thing is this? Did he buy her? So what? No. We are a young couple. We need to understand ourselves. We need to also build our own lives. I'm not against your brothers. They are wonderful people, but it's not all the time. That was where crisis began from. You think it's a simple matter, but that was where crisis began from. The first problems that people whose relative create in their marriage cause is born out of insensitivity. When you have relatives that are insensitive, it will cause a problem. The second problem is overprotection. There are certain families that when you marry their brother or marry their sister, because of the way they value their brother or their sister, they almost rub it on your face that you have the greatest privilege of your life to have married their sister or their brother. And so before you do anything, they call their sister, hope it's not touching your money. Touch your money? What is your business how we handle our money? Who is talking about your money or his money? This is our money. What is your problem? And then most married couples are not wise. They say, it's my family, it's my brother, it's my sister. They will now be narrating everything that happened between them and their husband, how they touch money, even into their sexuality. And then they start bombarding them with advice on what to do. After a while, your family will now break your home. And so, if you want to deal with this matter, when you get married, both of you should sit down and define some parameters. Because your relatives can be insensitive, and you too can be insensitive. And usually, it doesn't come with any ill intention. It's just because of love and connection. You love your sister or you love your brother so much so you are all over the place. And you don't know when you are beginning to overbear on the family. And because these things were not defined, when you want to start talking about it, it now looks as if you hate the family. Or it looks as if you don't like the family. And instead of the person reasoning it out logically, you discover that problems that should never have happened begin to emanate from nowhere. And such problems are so dicey, you can't handle it, because how do you start? Because before you speak, you now say, he doesn't like my family. It will even be embarrassing to yourself. Why would you say that? And then you see things begin to boomerang. So one of the areas the devil takes advantage of in destroying homes is when the relatives and their relationships are not given boundaries and their operations are not defined. Be man enough to sit your wife down to discuss those matters and create well-defined parameters. And be woman enough to call your husband's attention, respectfully tell him, let these parameters be defined. Especially if you notice that your spouse is not sensitive or your spouse does not have discretion. There are certain families where the sisters of the husband will come and load themselves in the house so much that the wife will literally become a stranger in her home. There's nothing she can say because the husband is so insensitive. You are connected to your sisters and you don't know that your wife is learning to blend to the family. And sometimes, unfortunately, the sisters too don't know their boundaries. And they choke this person until a point comes when the person can't take it anymore. And so in order not to get to this point, these are matters that are sensitive. They look simple, but if the devil takes advantage of it, you'll be shocked. You address them. Sickness, things that cause a lot of crisis in marriage. And sickness has two categories. There's a category of sickness that is before the marriage, and there's a category of sickness that is during the marriage. If a sickness of whatever sort emanates in the course of the marriage, it is the responsibility of both parties to bear it. Because when you got married, it was until death do you part. And so if your husband takes ill or your wife takes ill during the marriage, your husband's duty to the husband's duty to the wife, or the wife's duty to the husband, is to help him through the situation. That is not something anybody desires, but that's a cross you have to bear. However, if that sickness happens in that marriage out of carelessness, you see, that's why I told you, don't marry a reckless person. You get married to your husband, he's on alcohol from morning till night. You say, no, slow down on alcohol. He wouldn't hear until a condition happens. Now that the condition has happened, a burden is in the family. What do? This is where many people are in trouble. The sickness was avoidable. The spouse counseled, but the person will not listen. Now there is a crisis. When such a situation happens, you will bear it. You know why I emphasized it? So that you will marry correctly. Those of you who are not yet married, you will still bear it, because his liabilities becomes your burdens. And for those who are married, please pay attention. When your wife or your husband counsels you, it's out of care. Don't take it for granted. Many times, when God wants to speak to you, he speaks to you through your spouse. Don't take it for granted. However, if there's a sickness before marriage, there are two ways to go about it. If the person in question tells you before the marriage, and you feel you can handle it, then if you get into the marriage, if it deteriorates, you will bear it together because you were aware. However, if he doesn't tell you, and I give you some instances so that you know what we are saying is not migraine headache. There are many terminal issues that people have before they get married. They hide it. And they deceive the person into marriage. When they now get married, the person discovers. And then they want the person to bear it with them. You have issues, some impotence, some genotype issues. They were not revealed until they get married. And now that they are married, they say, well, I didn't know how to tell you, but we are here now. You are nowhere now. That is not a marriage. If such a situation happens, what you do is that you take it back to the authority that joined you. And what the authorities do in such a situation is that they annul the wedding. Because it was not a wedding. In Amos chapter 3 verse 3 say, two will only walk together if they be agreed. And so if you didn't come out clean and you deceive somebody into wedding, that covenant was compromised. Because it was not you that was standing there. It was a false image that stood there. Are we together? And so those who are intending to get married, no matter what the situation is, make sure you are able to say it. Because if you lead somebody into a deceptive union, don't think the person will bear that burden with you forever. She didn't marry you. She married a deceptive image that you showed her. It's now she's coming to discover you. Are you following? However, listen to what I said. I said the situation will be submitted to what? The authority that joined you. So it's not something you hear now, you say, thank God, and just jump out of marriage. Because there is a protocol for annulment. There's a protocol for annulment. The institution that joined you will x-ray the situation. If it's something that they can handle it, settle the matter, and help you move forward. But if it's something they cannot handle, based on their discretion, they have the power to annul that wedding, because no wedding took place in the first place. It was a deceiver standing there bearing a false image and leading somebody else into a life of pain.